Poštovani gledaoci Demostata, dobar dan. Vi gledate još jedno izdanje emisije Pola sata Demostata. Naš današnji gost je ambasador Italije u Republici Srbiji, gospodin Luka Gori. Your Excellency, hello and welcome.
Thank you very much. Very happy to be here.
Thank you for having this interview with us. Let's start with our usual first questions when we have ambassadors over. Tell us something more about bilateral relations between Serbia and your country.
Italy and Serbia have an excellent bilateral relationship. We have a strategic partnership which was signed in 2009. So we build our bilateral relationship on this document, and especially in the last 2 years with the new Italian government that decided really to reinvest in the Western Balkan region and to reinvest in the relationship with Serbia. We have developed very much the political dialogue between Italy and Serbia. Our Prime Minister Meloni was here at the end of 2023. We had most of the Italian ministers who came to Belgrade for bilateral visits. So the political dialogue was very much reinforced, also at parliamentarian level, with many visits from Serbia to Italy and from Italy to Serbia. And secondly, we developed very much the economic cooperation. As you probably know, we have 1,200 Italian companies registered in Serbia. We have a trade interchange which is around 4.5 billion euros. So Italy is really a very important economic partner of Serbia. And in the last 2 years, we developed this cooperation, and we organize 3 business forums between our two countries. Serbia is the only country with which in 2 years we have organized 3 business forums, which speaks volume of the importance that we attach to the relationship with Belgrade. And then political dialogue, economic cooperation, but also scientific cooperation, which is very, very important for us. There is a very important Serbian community of researchers who are working in Italy, and there is a lot of interest in Italy to work with Serbia on scientific cooperation. And of course also cultural cooperation is very important. We have at the embassy a very important cultural program, and I must say that there is a lot of love in Serbia for the Italian culture.
Definitely. So what would you choose to be the area of cooperation you're most proud of?
Well, if I may, probably, at least in the last 2 years, scientific cooperation and cooperation in technological innovation was the sector where we saw most progresses. We organize here again 2 scientific forums, one in Trieste and one in Belgrade. We signed many MOU, especially with the scientific and technological parks of Serbia, but also with the Artificial Intelligence Institute in Novi Sad, with the Bio4 campus, with the data center in Kragujevac, with the Biosense Institute. We have really developed a strategy in the scientific cooperation which is paying a lot of results for both countries in the interest of both people and governments.
What are the plans for our country's cooperation in this year?
Well, our idea is to organize a bilateral summit between the 2 governments. And then our main strategic objective, especially with regard to economic cooperation, is to focus very much on technological innovation, because the Italian economic presence in Serbia is very much focused so far on the traditional sectors, textile, automotive, banks, and so on. But now we have to intercept a little bit the new wave that we see here in Serbia, with regard to ICT, with regard to artificial intelligence, with regard to the biotechnologies. So our main objective now is to try to, I would say, readjust a little bit our strategic interest with regard to the economic cooperation.
You're an ambassador that comes from a NATO ally. How do you see NATO today?
Well, we are living in a very complex geopolitical context, a lot of instability around us, a lot of uncertainty, not only because we have a conflict in Ukraine, not only because we have in the Middle East a very unstable situation, as we all know, but also from the Mediterranean region, from the wider Mediterranean region, from Africa, but also in the Indo-Pacific. I mean, the international context is really very, very complicated. And in this context, I think NATO remains really a pillar for our security and remains the only international organization where US and Europe can work together, and we really would like to preserve this cooperation because it is key for the security of our people, for the security of US, for the security of Europe, but also for the prosperity of our people and for the possibility to promote together the values that are at the basis of this organization. Italy is a founding member of NATO, so we attach very much importance to this organization, and we are convinced that NATO is and will remain a protagonist of the international scene.
In your opinion, what is the added value of NATO in today's geopolitical context?
Well, of course, NATO is a military organization. And the first added value for all of us is deterrence, so the capacity to deter threats against our security. But NATO is also a political organization. So it is an organization which promotes a political dialogue among the member states and with the partners of NATO. So NATO is really an instrument, as I said, to promote our values, to somehow uphold, I would say, the international order, the rule-based international order, and also to protect the global common goods that we have and which are very important, I think, for all of us.
And we are mentioning NATO have been seen also, not only here, but in general, as a purely military organization. But it also has a very important political component. How do you see, what is the connection between these two things?
Well, it's very much, the two dimensions are very much connected. And I believe that the added value of the political dimension of NATO is very important. And we see it in the kind of approach that NATO has with partners. So NATO has a lot of partnerships with many different areas of the world. And it is developing this partnership always in a common I would say, approach with the country involved, trying to respect the sensitivity of the country, but at the same time offering, I would say, an expertise which is quite unique. For instance, if you take the possibility to develop defense capability institutions, it is something which is very important in the relationship with the partners around the world. And I think there are, speaking of partners, we as Italy, we believe it is crucial, first of all, to continue to develop this political dialogue with the European Union. The relationship between NATO and the European Union is really key. We see the necessity, of course, to develop also a European defense, but we consider the European defense as a way to reinforce the European pillar of NATO. So there is a strong complementarity between the two dimensions. And then we believe it's very much important to consider the southern flank of NATO. So to consider partnership, political dialogue with the wider Mediterranean and Africa. Because, of course, today there is a lot of emphasis on the eastern flank of NATO, rightly so, because we have the conflict in Ukraine. But from our perspective, we are a country which is a Mediterranean country. We believe it's very important to consider the threats, but also the opportunities coming from the Mediterranean and from Africa. At the Washington NATO summit, it was approved an action plan regarding the southern flank of NATO, and we really encourage NATO to implement it as soon as possible.
We are talking about political dialogue. What is the importance of political dialogue, not only between NATO allies, but also between NATO countries and their partners?
Yeah, I mean, it's critical because, as I said, NATO can really offer a unique expertise, especially in defense capacity institution building, which is very important, but also in many other areas, for instance, counterterrorism or cyber security. I mean, these are all everywhere now very delicate subjects, and NATO can really offer an added value.
What do you see as the most important areas for a crucial dialogue between partner countries and NATO allies?
Well, I mean, the crucial sector, I think it is probably now to tackle cybersecurity, because as we all know, this is becoming really a big issue for the security of everybody. So it is not just something which regards NATO or some member state of NATO, it regards all the states everywhere. So it is something on which fruitful cooperation is really needed, and NATO can give a big contribution in this respect.
We are talking about cybersecurity. Disinformation is also another big problem.
Absolutely, very much connected with cybersecurity. Disinformation is probably one of the most important challenges we have in front of us. We have to, to be fully aware that it is not a battle that we can, win overnight. We have to be prepared for a struggle to be considered for many years. But it's really something very important for the democracies, for the liberal values that we are supporting.
Exactly. What are your views on NATO's partnership with Serbia?
Well, I have a very positive assessment of that. Of course, we know the history of NATO in this region. We know the history of NATO with Serbia. We know what happened in the 90s. But we also know that things are moving forward. That in 2006, Serbia entered the PFP program. And we know that today there is quite an important, program of cooperation between Serbia and NATO. By the way, let me also mention that I think the NATO office here in Belgrade is doing a great job in promoting this cooperation, and Italy is always contributing, as you know, to this kind of activities. But there is really the necessity to continue to develop this cooperation with NATO from the Serbian side. Also because NATO is very good in tailoring the partnership on the necessity of Serbia. NATO is not imposing anything. NATO is very much respecting also the neutrality, the military neutralism of Serbia. So there is really space to develop a very good cooperation. And let's not forget that in this region, there is still the most important NATO operation, which is KFOR in Kosovo, which is very much important also for Serbia. And as you know, Italy is playing a major role. We have around 1,000 units in KFOR. We have the commander again. And we think that KFOR remains really, I would say, a key actor to guarantee the stability and the security of the Western Balkans, also in the interest of Serbia and, of course, of Kosovo.
How would you say that was the progressing of NATO and Serbia's cooperation, starting from the very starting point until today?
Well, I saw, again, a positive trend. Of course, we would like to see this positive trend a little bit reflected more also in the public debate here in Serbia. But it is a little bit under the radar, the cooperation with NATO, for the reasons we can understand. But my impression it is that year after year, in Serbia, the Serbian leadership has understood the added value of NATO, the added value of cooperating with NATO, the importance to keep alive this cooperation, despite a sentiment which exists in the public opinion, and which is a sentiment which, of course, is affected by what happens in the 90s.
And what would you say, in your opinion, what are the biggest advantages of the cooperation between NATO and Serbia, but both for NATO and for Serbia?
Yes, absolutely. There are many advantages. First of all, I think military training is a key advantage for Serbia, because Serbia needs military training also to be prepared to participate in the peacekeeping operations. And from this angle, they have improved a lot. We see them participating in many peacekeeping operations. In particular, let me mention UNIFIL in Lebanon, because they are with the Italians there, and we have really a very good assessment of the contribution they are giving in that context. So yes, training is very important. But then NATO is offering many other things. For instance, NATO was really helping to destroy here in Serbia tons of ammunition that had to be destroyed. NATO is offering through PFP a very important scientific program. So Serbia can really, I would say, profit from that. NATO is offering cooperation for the cybersecurity, for the counterterrorism, but also for management of natural disaster, for instance, which is something very important for Serbia. So the areas of cooperation, the area of mutual benefits in this partnership are, I would say, quite huge.
Let's look at the broader regional context. We said there is a lot to talk about regional and also world context. Now a lot of burning issues. How do you assess the evolution that the Western Balkans countries, so not only Serbia, but also other Western Balkan countries underwent since late 1990s until today?
Yeah, I would say that in an historical perspective, there is a positive trend. And the positive trend is determined by the European perspective on the one side and the NATO perspective on the other side. So we know that a certain number of countries of the region, they have become a member of NATO. But all the countries of the region should become member of the European Union, which is, in my view, the most important achievement for the region. To be honest, in the last 15 years, the EU enlargement process was stalled. It was not a priority. It was not pushed by Brussels. And this attitude provoked, I would say, a lot of disillusion in this region, disappointment vis-à-vis the European Union, especially in Serbia. There was this sort of enlargement fatigue in many EU capitals and also in Brussels. And in parallel, there was in the region a little bit of reform fatigue. So the countries were not pushing the reform agenda, also because, as I said, they didn't see a realistic perspective to become a member of the European Union. Well, after the Russian aggression to Ukraine, something has changed. There is a new awareness that we have to speed up the enlargement process to the Western Balkans. There is the necessity from a geopolitical point of view to integrate this region into the European Union. We have made some progresses in this respect. The European Union has also launched this growth plan, which is very important in order to anticipate to the pre-accession phase very important, I would say, goals, as for instance, the integration into the single market. So there is a new, I would say, momentum, as we call it, with regard to the enlargement process for the region. But we have to encourage the countries of the region to grasp this opportunity, because it's really there, and it would be very important to try to speed up the process. Italy is at the forefront in this initiative. And for instance, just a couple of weeks ago, our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Tajani, organized in Rome another meeting of this group, which is called Friends of the Western Balkan Group, which is a sort of, I would say, lobby to try to push the enlargement agenda for the Western Balkan region.
So what do you think the future is going to bring to the whole Western Balkans region?
Well, difficult to say, but first of all, we have to keep peace, security and stability in the region, because this remains, I would say, the precondition of everything. So it's important to keep calm the situation in Kosovo, to encourage the normalization between Belgrade and Pristina. It is important in Bosnia-Herzegovina to keep the situation, I would say, under control, to avoid any major crisis. And then once you can really keep the stability of the region, as I said, we have to really push very hard to accelerate the integration of the region into the European Union.
The youth population in Serbia, but also in the Western Balkans, is a very important and key also for the future. What would be your message in the context of all that we have said exactly for the youth population, not only in Serbia, but in the whole region?
Well, my message is that this region needs the energy of the young generations, needs the ideas of the young generation, needs, I would say, the contribution of the young generation. So it is up to them to build the future of this region. And of course, I know very well that many young people are leaving this region for many reasons. And I fully understand that sometimes in some countries it is not easy to imagine a bright future in this region. But if on the one side I understand also the necessity for, young people to go abroad, to study abroad, to make experiences abroad, which is very enriching for everybody, I really hope that at some point they will come back. They will come back to build a new future for this region, to inject new ideas in this region, and to really build a region which will be fully integrated in the European Union and hopefully in NATO.
Thank you for this message. important message, and thank you for participating in our interview.
Thank you very much.
Poštovani gledaoci i slušaoci Demostata, bilo je ovo još jedno izdanje Pola sata Demostata. Moje ime je Tamara Bajčić, a do sledećeg viđenja i slušanja ne zaboravite da se pretplatite na naš YouTube kanal, ali i da nas u eri društvenih mreža svakako zapratite na društvenim mrežama. Doviđenja i prijatno!